Damn it, I lost my flow on that one. Okay.
I love this already. All right, let's
Yeah,
do it.
exactly. You see the type of show that we do here.
Yo, what's up, everybody? My name is Emilio, and this is my friend Christian, and this is Let's Roll Characters, the show where we roll characters for D&D 5th edition. And we have a exciting episode today. Christian, why don't you tell us the deal?
Emilio, we have a very special guest roller joining us today. We have Mr. Paul Gabat joining us from the Philippines. He is he is a writer of Dungeons and Dragons community-created content, as well as adventures which get published through DM's Guild. Some of his adventures are A Dragon's Breath, Tainted Love, and Stygia Untamed. He is also one of the admins of D&D Adventures League PH, which is a D&D 5th edition organized play community in the Philippines. Lastly, he's part of a band of nerds called the Greasy Snitches, who focus on creating tabletop gaming events. And you can see a link to all that stuff in the description below. And he is here to tell us and create a character with us with his new class, the Rider class for D&D 5e. So welcome, Paul. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Christian, Emilio, I'm very excited that I'm here right now. Let's make some characters. I'm ready to roll some dice. I want to roll some dice with you guys.
All right, let's roll characters.
Boom, 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 boom. Characters, gonna roll characters. All right, well, Paul, why don't you tell us about the Rider class?
Basically, the rider is someone who has found a clockwork egg. And with this egg contains a sentient being that when you actually spill your blood on it, it transforms into a clockwork automaton, like something that is familiar to you. So it can be like a dog, it can be like a lion if you want, or it can be an octopus for all you. It doesn't matter what it looks like, but it's something that will make you feel comfortable. It becomes stronger and stronger until you get to these subclasses where it can transform into a giant mechanical construct that you can pilot.
Okay. Well, Paul, please roll us a d10 for ancestry.
First roll is a 1.
Okay, we have a dragonborn. Paul, please roll us a d10 for culture.
All right. That is a 3.
An elf. Our next roll is normally class, but of course we're going with the rider. And now for
rider.
Background. Why don't you tell us what the 3 backgrounds are and give us just a very brief description of each of them?
Sure. The first one is a collector. You grew up like collecting stuff like statuettes, mugs, forks, beasts, a magic item, clay golem, stone golem, shield guardian, and then what's something else? What's rarer than that? A clockwork automaton.
This is the background that really speaks to me because I'm a little bit of a hoarder. So
The next one is the off-worlder. I've heard a lot of people wanting to play a character that is actually themselves. I'm gonna be Paul in Faerun. How do I do that? So it doesn't have to be human from Earth. It can be from other place. So I'm a devil from hell. I got reincarnated as a gnome here in the material plane. What do I do now? When you found your weapon, which is a clockwork automaton, how are you gonna use it? For good, for evil? Or you're just gonna be a farmer, and me and my clockwork automaton, we're just gonna farm, bake bread, just live a normal life. Like, the third one is a new type. So if you're human, you're the next step in evolution. Kind of like the X-Men now. So you're starting to evolve. Since you're smarter, you're physically stronger than everybody else around you. How do they treat you? And then once you meet your companion, Clockwork Automaton, if you take the Rider class, you kind of have that bond. That it's just gonna be me and you, buddy.
So why don't you roll us a d4 for background?
All right. 1.
Okay, it's gonna be a collector.
All right.
And then finally, please roll us a d4 for gender as well.
3.
Okay, oh, it's gonna be non-binary.
All right.
Cool.
Paul, do you have any initial thoughts on who this character could be? What's coming to mind for you?
I agreed to this recording, and then wow, this is really hard. It's not easy what you guys are doing here. Feels like in his dragonborn tribe, he doesn't really belong. It's more on a war-focused tribe, and what he wants is actually just collect. He just wants a normal life with his collection of, let's say, puppets. That's what he likes.
Okay.
And he knows that there is an elf tribe in a hidden forest that are very good in crafting. So he was still young. He left his tribe, find the hidden forest, ask permission to the elf tribe if he can at least be part of that village, and just so he can make his collection happen. In that small village, there's really not a lot to collect. Are there other villages that makes good puppet?
As they start to get more and more obsessed with this collection, they probably are looking for puppets that might be magical or animated in some way. And so maybe in the elf society there are stories or tales of a place where
of the gnomes who created these things,
who have been able to breathe life into mechanical objects like puppets, right? Yeah. And so they have to go on this quest to find these living constructs, basically.
The ultimate puppets.
They know of like their neighbor, like the gnomes from ancient times who actually have made some really cool toys that are magical as well.
I like the idea actually that maybe in this elf village there is an very old gnome who remembers these stories. And let's say that the gnome society that was able to create these living puppets was thousands and thousands of years old. So even the elves who live a long time probably don't really remember themselves, but they've heard stories of it. But this gnome has been around forever, and maybe their great-grandfather was actually one of the people that was involved with creating these puppets, and so this knowledge has been passed on through generations. And so this dragonborn finds this gnome, and maybe they connect because they're also, not elves living in an elf society.
Yeah.
They're two people that are a little bit outside of the norm.
Oh, totally.
In a village of elves, they are the only two.
Yeah.
That works.
And I would even add that this gnome, maybe it's like great grandfather or mother or something way back.
Yeah. And so maybe their connection is that the gnome also collects something. I don't know what, but the gnome is also a collector of something, and so they bond over that idea.
The gnome can probably collect like egg sculptures, like just
Yes.
because so he won't forget the history of what his ancestors have made. He starts making those eggs, like carving it from wood.
That's perfect. Yeah, so that he can remember.
Now we have a chance to kind of figure out a little bit more in detail about what this character is good at. So we're going to have our guest Paul roll strength and dexterity, and then Christian and I are going to alternate. Because this class, its primary abilities are constitution and intelligence, we don't want one person to roll both of those, so Christian and I will alternate the last 4 ability scores.
Paul wants us to roll him in case we screw it up.
So I don't get blamed if something happens to this magnificent dragonborn.
Yes.
Perfect.
12 for strength.
Oh, okay. That's a solid roll.
Normal.
Okay.
Respectable.
Why don't you give us a dex?
It's nimble, it's fast. 2 6s and 2 1s.
I was like, how do I do addition? Okay. 13 dexterity. Okay. These are 2 solid rolls.
So before you roll, constitution is important because again, as a rider, you and your automaton are actually connected. You are bonded into one life force. Your automaton doesn't have its own HP. It's connected to your hit points.
I hope you don't blow it.
Yeah, really.
Getting nervous here, but yeah.
Yes.
We're okay, but not great. That is a 10.
Oh, no, so average. Eesh. Well, what I will say is this. I'm feeling good about my chances of winning. All right, intelligence is That is going to be a 13.
So another primary stat of a rider is intelligence. It depends on your imagination. Your mind works as the processor of your clockwork automata.
Good thing we didn't blow it completely.
Yeah, mildly better than average, I guess.
All right.
All right. Yeah, what's
here
the
goes
wisdom on
wisdom.
this one?
Oh, yeah, we are not rolling well today. This is an 8.
Oh!
An 8.
Oh, man. Okay, well, here's for all the marbles to see whether it's going to be the guest roller who gets the victory or whether it is our hero, Christian. Charisma is... The charisma is 9. We have our first guest roller victory.
Paul, representing for the guest rollers.
Congratulations, Paul!
I've got it tallied. It's not great. Coming in at a miserable 3rd place is Emilio with 18. Christian not far behind with a 22.
Yeah.
And Paul crushing it today for the guest rollers with a 25.
That's Emilio 7. That's Christian 4, and that is guest roller 1. So, before we jump into class proficiencies, we do still have a few things to resolve here from the dragonborn ancestry and the elf culture. First, with the elf culture, we're really lucky, actually, because we're going to get a +2 for dexterity and a +2 for intelligence, which is certainly exactly what we want for the rider class. And then we have to figure out what kind of dragonborn this is going to be. Paul, will you please roll us a d10 for the dragonborn color?
An 8.
Okay, that gets us a red fire dragon. And then what we have for the background, that gets us some skills proficiencies in both investigation and persuasion. And Paul, why do we have those as the skill proficiencies for the collector?
For example, for a very magnificent dragonborn, since you like to collect puppets, you want to see if the quality is actually good. Was it made by this elf craftsman? Or was it from like shady goblin village? It's like a second-hand version of
Is
this.
it like in mint condition or...
Exactly. Is it damaged? You want to check. So investigation is really important. If you find a really good item that you want to purchase and want to become part of your collection, you need to become good at persuasion and see how much you can haggle that price.
I love that haggling is worked into the background for this character. That's so good.
You're a collector, so you need it.
Of course.
It's got to be.
For the rider class, we have to choose 2 more proficiencies from history, investigation, although that's already taken from the background. So history, perception, sleight of hand, and survival.
I think since he has like a gnome, elderly gnome friend, and then learning from it, I think history will be like one of the.
Yeah.
I totally agree. History
Yeah.
totally makes sense to me. I agree.
And they probably have an interest in history generally if they're looking for these, ancient objects.
It could be sleight of hand if they need to get into certain situations to, maybe liberate objects from their current sort of owners.
Well, also, if they're really interested in puppets, they have to have like good manual dexterity.
Oh, yeah!
Right? Like maybe they have to be able to
that
actually
works.
put
Totally!
work the puppets or put them together or something.
Do we come up with what the construct will look like, what form it's going to take?
Yes. So we decide what it will look like once it hatches. Something that will make you feel comfortable, so you won't get scared once it manifests. Something you can bond with easily. That's what it will look like. Since we keep talking about this gnome, so if the automaton will look like a humanoid gnome that has like puppet features, like a clockwork puppet gnome.
I want to up the ante a little bit and say that when he goes on this quest to find the clockwork egg, it's after his gnome friend dies. And it inspires him to actually pursue the legend of these ancient sort of gnomes who created these wonders. Is it possible that the spirit of his mentor could be the spark of life in this automaton?
That's gonna be more of a flavor that you have there. Or before the gnome mentor died, he gave like his most precious egg collection. That probably has like a spark, like a splinter of his soul.
So to really kind of figure out some of the characteristics of this character. We're going to explore the traits, ideal, bond, and flaw. And Paul, your supplement does include options for all of those things for each of the backgrounds, so that's perfect.
So the first personality trait is I like to show off my collection. So, what's the point of having some really cool stuff if you can't show it off to people? And our Dragonborn is really interested in that. And then our second personality trait is I only go on adventures because I need money for my hobby. So yeah, I mean, as soon as they get the opportunity, they're spending money, spending them gold pieces, spending them ducats on parts and other things. And so they're usually needing to find ways to fill that purse back up.
We go with the ideal, and we chose community. So it says finding someone who has the same interests as you is a good feeling, isn't it? So he was able to get a taste of it, an experience of it when he met his gnome mentor. So they kind of share interests. I like to collect puppets. Some of the ancient puppets. What if they're like large group of people that actually like the same things that I do? We can talk for like hours, for days. We could show off our collection. For the bond, we chose I'll be the first person to ever complete this rare item set. When the Dragonborn was actually with the gnome mentor, he mentioned about the automaton, clockwork, but there are other parts of that collection. The rider class also has a feature where you can buy upgrades. At third level, you have what is called ascension upgrades, meaning the core of the automaton is actually connected to this mysterious location only known as the factory. You can just submit or deposit the gold on the core itself, and then the blueprint and the upgrade will just manifest from the core. So those can be the other things that our Dragonborn is trying to collect.
Perfect, because for our flaw, we've chosen my coin pouch is always empty because of my hobby.
Yeah.
And so, at first they were buying, the small puppets and the little toys that they would find, and that was where they would spend all of their dough. But now they are probably focused on getting those upgrades that you just mentioned. So every penny they have is going right back into kind of getting some new blueprints, getting some stuff from the factory. That's awesome.
The last thing we got to do before really putting it all together is come up with a name. So, Paul.
That's the hardest one.
It's the hardest part.
He's basically a puppeteer, so he probably has like a stage name. I'm thinking of Maestro, the puppet master. There should be like a flower or a plant that you only find in that elven village.
I've also looked up some like elven words for flower, and there are things like alma, insil.
I really like the name Alma. In Spanish, Alma means soul. And we're talking about this bringing to life this creature that's mechanical, but that does have sentience.
Here's a word here, Heru, that apparently means lord or master. Tur means king.
Alma Heru, yeah.
And Heru is so close to hero too, which I kind of like.
Yeah.
Alma Heru.
That's
Heru,
it, guys. Yeah.
That's
Alma
it.
Heru.
We need a name for the automaton.
Oh.
Oh.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah. Okay.
How do you usually figure out automaton names?
What's the name of the gnome mentor?
Yeah. What's the gnome's name? Yeah, I think we should come up with his name.
Maestro.
Maybe it's Maestro.
Yeah, Maestro Junior. So it sounds, right? It sounds like a master and a junior.
Okay, all right. So the name of that gnome was just known as Maestro, and the automaton is going to be Maestro Junior.
All right, we have now met Alma Heru and Maestro Junior. Christian, please tell us about them.
Whew. Okay, so Alma Heru is of Dragonborn ancestry, and they came up in a warlike tribe among other Dragonborn, and that really was not what they were interested in. And so they decided that they were going to seek another group of people to join with where they could find ways to collect what they loved, which was intricate, very sort of interesting puppets. And so they eventually found this elving community, which they were adopted into, And in this elvish community, there was a lone gnome, an old wizened gnome named Maestro. And Alma and Maestro really sort of bonded. They were the outsiders to this elvish community. And Maestro had all sorts of tales about these wondrous, ancient, legendary gnome creations. And actually, the tales of these creations had been passed on from generation to generation, and they spoke of a clockwork automaton egg. Maestro was a collector of eggs, and he also sort of made eggs as well. And so one day, sadly, Maestro passed on, and he left his collection of eggs to Alma. And Alma sort of took his favorite one and decided that he would bring that along with him and seek the truth behind the legends of these automatons. And so he eventually does find one. And when he does, he places his hand and sheds blood over it to activate it to find that he was in fact worthy. And when it came alive, Alma gave it the egg that was his close friend and mentor's, and it had a spark of life in it from his mentor, from Maestro, and took on the appearance of a gnome who is Maestro Jr. And that is the story of Alma Heru.
Has like a very rich backstory.
Yeah.
It took 3 people to create that backstory.
And if you want to start that journey with Alma Heru, you can download the PDF at the link below. And Paul, why don't you tell us about what you're up to right now and where people can find you and your stuff?
Yes, so thank you for staying with us. Thank you for with all the shenanigans that I've made Christian and Emilio go through. So you can find Ryder and all other adventures that I wrote in dmsguild.com. You can find me on Twitter at dmpaulg or on Facebook, same thing, at dmpaulg. Also have a Patreon. It's all dmpaulg.
Yes.
Right now, I'm actually working on, or starting to work on my next project. Another class. This one is a classic, more of a summoner class, but this one, it's based on the luck of your dice. So when you roll a natural 20, a giant dragon just pops out of nowhere, fire breaths everywhere, and then disappears.
Awesome. And so we will have links to all of your stuff in the description below, of course, Paul. And thank you so much for joining us. This was so much fun developing a rider with you.
Yeah, thank you again, Paul. And as always, if you've enjoyed Let's Roll Characters, please do like and subscribe. Leave us a comment on the type of character you'd like to see us bring to life in a future episode.
Now go play some D&D.
Boom, 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 boom. Character, gonna roll characters.
See what Christian does to us? This happens all the time.
All right, let's play a game.
D&D session without like some dying to bring the party together or something.
Ready, attack. I'm ready.